If you have a war, if you create a nation state around war, you create a mythology around the beauty of war, then people will happily fight and die. Okay? Can you read the speech?
We have created our myth. The myth is a faith, a passion. It is not necessary for it to be a reality. It is a reality in the sense that it is a stimulus, is hope, is faith, is courage. Our myth is the nation. Our myth is the greatness of the nation. And to this myth, this greatness, which we want to translate into a total reality, we subordinate everything else.
Okay, so this is the highlight or the peak of the nation state. And so during World War II, they had to fight a war to destroy the entire society because the soldiers were not a mercenary army like they were in the past before. The soldiers were coming from the population themselves. So in World War II, the Allies won not because they were democratic or morally superior or had better strategy. It was because they could destroy the productive capacity of their enemies, but their enemies could not destroy the productive capacity of their nation states. Does that make sense? So America, their factories were fine. Soviet Union, their factories were removed into Siberia, far away from the Germans. The Germans and the Japanese could be firebombed, okay? So look at this. So from 1940 to 1945, the British and Americans firebombed Germany, okay? This is Dresden. Dresden. You can see the entire city of Dresden was destroyed by the firebombing. So in World War II, what they recognize is there's no point in killing soldiers on the battlefield because they'll just send in more soldiers with more weapons. So we need to destroy the civilian population. That's how you win the war. Okay? And that's how they defeated Germany. Japan was much worse. Look at this. At least half of Japan was destroyed by the American firebombing of Japan. That's why Japan lost the war. Otherwise, they would have kept on going. All right? And these are huge cities. So Nagoya is a city the size of Los Angeles. 40% of it was destroyed. Okay? Tokyo is New York City. 40% of it was destroyed as well. Yokohama, 60% of it was destroyed. Okay, this is Tokyo. You can see the extent of the damage. The nation state idea was so powerful that in order to win a war, you need to destroy the civilian population. Okay? So, as you can see, because of the rise of the nation state, we have to kill more and more people in order to fight wars. So this is World War II, and at least 20 to 30 million people were killed. Okay? And depending on how you calculate, probably a lot more than that died. But what's interesting is that even though World War II was a calamity, even though tens of millions have died, look at the population growth. It never stopped. Okay? So for most of history of human history, population growth was steady. But then, starting around the year 1600, it boomed, okay? And again, scientists will tell you this coincided with the rise of science and technology. But we've always had science and technology. What made this different was the rise of the nation state and the recognition that to fight wars, you need more people who want to kill themselves for the nation. And to get them to do that, you have to treat them well as well. Okay? And so the nation state wanted science and technology to grow the population. That's why we had medicine and sanitation. Okay? These innovations happen because the nation state willed these things to happen. All right. Now, as I mentioned, after World War II, and after all the travesty and destruction of World War II, the world got together and said, okay, America, you're in charge now, and let's build a world in which we don't have to fight and kill each other anymore. And so America created this game, right, called capitalism, consumer capitalism, in which we live in today. And this system is unique in human history, and for most of this history was extremely successful. It grew the population from about 2 billion to about 8 billion today. It made a lot of people more wealthy. Think of the tremendous wealth that China has generated in the past 30, 40 years because of its participation in consumer capitalism. But unfortunately, we've now reached a point where the system is off balance. It's unstable, it's unsustainable. So now we're going back to war. But unfortunately, because there's too many people, this means that when we go back to war, at least 50% of humanity will die off in World War III, okay? So, this is the war in Ukraine. And already millions of people are dying in this war. But if you look at the war in Ukraine, it's essentially a 19th century war, okay? It's almost like World War I. I know World War I happened in the 20th century, but it's really a 19th century war where you are trying to kill as many soldiers as possible, okay? And that's what's happening in Ukraine. What I will show you is that Iran will be the first 21st century war. So, America in round one tried to use shock and awe. Shock and awe is basically you decapitate the leadership, okay? You destroy the military, okay? And you destroy production. Right? That's the idea of shock and awe. I come in, I kill your leadership, I kill your military, I kill your war factories. And you do it as soon as possible. But this is not working against Iran because they prepared this war for 20 years, so it's decentralized, okay? So you've killed their leaders, but they don't care because they have new leaders come into place. Their military is hidden, okay? They're hidden in mountains, and their factories also hidden in mountains as well. So even though the Americans have really destroyed much of Iran's war fighting capacity, Iran is still in this fight. So what's going to happen is that over the next few months, America is going to shift its strategy into a 21st century war strategy, okay? Which will have three components, okay? The first component is economic strangulation. I will destroy your economy, your entire economy. Second is ethnic tension. I will try to create as much conflict as possible between the different peoples in Iran, okay? And the third thing is destroy civilian infrastructure. Basically, I want to destroy people's capacity to access water, electricity, and food, the basic necessities of life. Why do I want to do that? Because if people cannot access these things, they get angry, right? Then if they get angry, I can channel this anger against the government because it's easier for them to attack the government than it is to attack the US military, which is the ones destroying all this infrastructure. So this is what a 21st century war strategy looks like. And this is what the Americans will deploy in Iran over the next few months. Now, why haven't they done this before? Well, because these are war crimes, okay? There are lots of treaties, the Geneva Convention, that prohibit you from fighting these wars. But as the Americans become much more desperate, as they continue to lose this war, they'll be like, screw this, I'm gonna win this war no matter what it takes, okay? So let me show you how this war will be fought. So right now, they're trying to target weapons. They're trying to target military bases. That doesn't get you anywhere, okay? You need to better use your weapon systems because you just don't have enough munitions to destroy the entire Iranian military. Okay, so you have to be strategic now. And so you target things that have huge impact on the civilian population as well as the economy, right? So the most basic thing is water. Okay, look guys, these are all dams and reservoirs around Iran. Okay, I don't have to destroy all of them, but I strategically destroy some of them. This is going to create a lot of pressure on the civilian population. They'll be very angry, they might protest against the government. Okay? Also, transportation networks, right? These are roads and railways. This is important because Tehran is a city of 10 million people. And they do not grow their own food. They require food to come from the countryside, from elsewhere. So if I attack the roads leading to Tehran, if I attack strategic hubs, then it's very hard for food to move from place to place. Okay? I don't have to destroy the entire food supply. I can't do that. I don't have enough weapons, but I'm being strategic about it. I'm putting strain on Tehran's capacity to feed its own population. Power plants, okay? These are all power plants around Iran. And it's really easy to destroy these power plants. All right? So does that make sense? So the idea is, war, the rules of engagement require me to only attack soldiers and only attack weapons. But eventually I'm going to run out of munitions if I keep on doing that. And it's not going to destroy Iran's capacity to fight. They won't surrender. So now I need to be more strategic with how I use my munitions, how I use my bombs. And so I want to create as much damage as possible. And the best way to do that is by targeting key infrastructure, power plants, desalination plants, roads, railway networks. Okay? I can't destroy all of them, but I can create as much havoc as possible over time so the civilian population gets very angry. So my best weapon in this war are no longer my planes and my aircraft carriers,